The bloodline tells you everything you need to know. Jalen Brewster's father, Robert Brewster, was a two-time All-MAC offensive lineman at Ball State and a third-round NFL draft pick by the Dallas Cowboys in 2009. The man knew what it took to play in the trenches at the highest level. He passed that knowledge directly to his son, and now that son is the #1 overall recruit in the entire 2027 class, the top-rated defensive tackle in the country, and he just committed to one of the most aggressive recruiting operations in college football. He's 6'3", 305 pounds, and he runs a sub-5-second 40 at that weight. He plays for Cedar Hill High School in the Dallas suburbs, the same program where his future head coach Joey Maguire won 3 state championships before becoming the head man at Texas Tech. He held offers from Ohio State, Texas A&M, Oregon, Oklahoma, Indiana, and pretty much every other program with the resources to pursue him. He picked the Red Raiders, and the story of how he got there, why he stayed there, and what he's about to bring to Lubbock is one of the most fascinating recruiting wins of the entire 2027 cycle. This is the kid every program wanted, and the way Texas Tech locked him down tells you exactly where college football recruiting is headed. Start with what Cedar Hill football actually means in this story, because it matters. Cedar Hill is a Dallas area powerhouse that has produced NFL talent for decades. It's a program built on toughness, on physicality, and on developing kids who understand what it means to play the game the right way. Joey Maguire was the head coach there for 14 seasons. He won 3 state titles. He recruited the area, built relationships with the families, and earned a reputation as one of the best high school football coaches in the state of Texas. When Maguire left Cedar Hill, he eventually landed at Baylor before becoming the head coach at Texas Tech in 2021. The connections he built in that area never went away. And when Jalen Brewster came of age as one of the most coveted recruits in the country, those connections paid off in a major way. Cedar Hill plays a brutal schedule. Texas high school football at the 6A level is the closest thing to college football you'll find at the prep level. Brewster has been dominating that level of competition since his sophomore year. The film shows a kid who's already physically developed, who plays with the kind of leverage and hand violence that defensive line coaches drool over, and who has the rare combination of size and movement skills that makes him almost impossible to block one-on-one. Here's what Brewster actually does on the field. The first thing that jumps off the tape is the explosiveness. At 305 pounds, he's firing off the snap with the kind of get-off you typically see from defensive ends 50 pounds lighter. That first-step quickness lets him beat offensive linemen to their landmarks before they can even get out of their stance. Once he's into the gap, the power takes over. He has genuine bull rush ability and can collapse the pocket from interior alignments. Offensive linemen at the high school level simply cannot anchor against him. He drives them backward into the quarterback's lap on a regular basis. The versatility is what separates him from the typical interior defensive lineman prospect. Brewster has lined up everywhere on the defensive front for Cedar Hill. At 3 technique, at 1 technique, even kicked outside to defensive end in certain packages. He has the size to 2 gap when asked, the quickness to penetrate as a 1 gap attacker, and the lateral mobility to chase down ball carriers in space. Evaluators have specifically mentioned his ability to play sideline to sideline, which is not something you usually associate with a 300-pound defensive lineman. He's tracking down running backs on perimeter runs the way an outside linebacker would. The pass rush profile is genuinely impressive for a player his size. He's not just a power rusher who relies on bull rushing through tackles. He has developing hand technique, an emerging swim move, and the bend to dip underneath blocks when he gets a tackle leaning. When he's working from interior alignments, he uses his quickness off the snap to win before the offensive lineman can fully set. When he's outside, he combines that explosiveness with his power to give tackles a problem they cannot solve. The comparisons evaluators are throwing around include Trey Hendrickson, the Cincinnati Bengals pass rusher who has become one of the most disruptive defensive players in the NFL. That's not a one-to-one comparison, but the traits overlap. Both are bigger-bodied players who can win with power and bend, who can play multiple alignments, and who bring a relentless motor to every snap. The motor is the part of the evaluation that doesn't show up on the stat sheet but matters enormously. Brewster plays through the whistle. He chases plays from the backside. He works to finish blocks and finish tackles. That kind of effort is what separates good defensive linemen from great ones at the next level. You can teach technique, You can develop hand usage. You cannot teach a kid to care that much on every single play. Brewster already has that built in. The football intelligence rounds out the package. Defensive linemen at the high school level often struggle with run game responsibility because they're so focused on pass rushing. Brewster understands run fits. He understands how to set the edge against gap schemes. He understands his role in stunts and twists. That kind of football IQ at his age means he's going to be ready to contribute as a true freshman in a way most defensive line recruits aren't. Wanted to evaluate the new staff. Now here's where the recruitment gets interesting. Brewster originally committed to Texas Tech in October of his junior year. The Joey Maguire connection from Cedar Hill, the comfort of staying close to home, and the aggressive recruiting approach from the Red Raiders all played into that early commitment. But recruiting is never that simple, especially with the #1 player in the country. Texas Tech's defensive line coach Zarnell Fitch left the program after Brewster's commitment, and that coaching change opened the door for other programs to take another run at him. Brewster himself acknowledged on social media that his commitment wasn't completely solid and that he wanted to evaluate the new staff. Now here's where the recruitment gets interesting. That's when the real recruiting battle started. Indiana made a significant push. The Hoosiers have been one of the most surprising recruiting stories in the entire Big Ten over the past 2 cycles, and Brewster represented the kind of national-level talent that would change the perception of the program permanently. The connection there was personal. Brewster was actually born in Indianapolis, not Texas. His father played at Ball State alongside Indiana's defensive coordinator Bryant Haynes. Indiana defensive tackles coach Pat Coons made multiple trips to Texas to maintain the relationship. The Hoosiers brought him in for an official visit during their spring game, and the buzz around that visit was loud. National analysts spent weeks debating whether Indiana could pull off what would have been one of the biggest recruiting flips in recent memory. Ohio State stayed in the mix the entire time. Texas A&M made a serious financial push. Oregon emerged late with what reports described as a substantial NIL package. Every program with the resources to compete at the highest level was throwing everything they had at Brewster. He didn't move. Brewster officially committed to Texas Tech on a Saturday night ceremony, picking the Red Raiders over a final list that included Ohio State, Texas A&M, Oregon, Oklahoma, and Indiana. The decision was a statement. Texas Tech, a program that has never been considered a traditional national recruiting power, had just landed the #1 overall player in the country against the most established brands in college football. The financial investment that Texas Tech has made in the program played a real role. So did the relationships with Maguire, the proximity to home, and the vision the coaching staff laid out for how Brewster would be used in the defensive scheme. But this commitment is about more than just one player. It's about what Texas Tech is building. The Red Raiders 2027 class is now arguably the most talented defensive recruiting class in the country. Brewster joins 5-star outside linebacker LaDainian Guyton, who committed in August. Add in 4-star defensive tackle K'Adrian Redmond and defensive end Antonio Underwood, and Texas Tech has assembled a defensive front 7 that would be the envy of any program in the SEC or Big Ten. The investment in the trenches is the strategy. General Manager James Blanchard and head coach Joey Maguire have made it clear that they believe winning in the Big 12 starts with controlling both lines of scrimmage. The 2026 class already includes 5-star offensive tackle Felix Ojo. The 2027 class is now headlined by Brewster and Guyton. That's a foundation that most programs would kill for. Brewster's projection at the next level is straightforward. He's a day-1 impact player in the defensive line rotation with the realistic ceiling of starting as a true freshman. The Red Raiders' defensive scheme under coordinator Sheil Wood is built on aggressive penetration and disruption from the interior, which fits Brewster's skill set perfectly. He has the explosiveness to win as a 3-technique pass rusher, the size to 2 gap against the run, and the versatility to kick outside in passing situations. That kind of positional flexibility is exactly what modern college defenses need. The long-term projection is a first-round NFL draft pick. The bloodline is there. The frame is there. The athleticism is there. The football intelligence is there. The motor is there. Every single trait that NFL scouts look for in an interior defensive lineman, Brewster already has at age 17. By the time he finishes his junior year at Texas Tech, he's going to be one of the most discussed prospects in the entire 2030 NFL draft. Jalen Brewster's the kind of recruit that defines program eras. He's the son of an NFL offensive lineman who understands the trenches better than most kids his age ever will. He's the #1 overall player in the 2027 class. He's a 305-pound defensive tackle who runs sub 5-second 40s and can play sideline to sideline. He chose Texas Tech over the most established programs in college football. And he did it because the relationships were real, the vision was clear, and the investment in the program was undeniable. Texas Tech just landed the kind of player that most programs only dream about. And the Big 12 is about to find out what it looks like when a 5-star defensive tackle with first-round NFL talent shows up in Lubbock with a chip on his shoulder. This is Blitz All Media, where we cover the kids before the rest of the world catches up. Subscribe, drop a comment below, and tell me whether you think Brewster becomes the highest drafted defensive tackle to ever come out of Texas Tech. I'll see you on the next one.